Is now the perfect time to buy your very own COBRA F9 driver. Let's have a look. And I think you would be getting this driver at an absolute steal. Guys, how you doing? Welcome back to a brand new video. Simon down here at Burford Golf Lab. F9 driver. Whilst everyone's talking about the Speedzone, and yes, I'm excited to obviously test it and try it, especially with that anti-like top design, where for you guys that love a high toe shot, I imagine that's not going to necessarily get damaged. I want to talk about the F9, as it was highly praised last year in terms of the price point and the value for money to get fitted. Not only that, but the shafts, as well as the Arcos system in the top of it. It was an easy sell, I think, for a lot of people on social media or YouTubers or Instagram, mainly because it was the whole package. It's young, it's fresh, £100 cheaper than the competitors, and it definitely could keep up there with the best. But now with the Speedzone out, the price of this is dramatically going to drop. And if you've been looking to get the F9 at a great deal, is this the perfect time to do it, or should you wait a bit longer? And who is this driver actually for? I've had a year now of fitting with this driver. I know what it excels at and what it doesn't excel at, and what kind of player it is specifically for. So if you're interested in all of that, then watch the rest of the video. Also, if you wouldn't mind leaving a like, subscribing if you are new. But let's get into it. So as I previously mentioned at the start, this thing was hyped up. I think Rick Shields himself personally helped for about 100% boost on COBRA's sales, especially throughout the UK, purely by giving it his stamp of approval. And for me, that's just very interesting, how much influence influencers have on certain products. And it is a good driver. And compared to the M5 and also the Epic Flash, it's quite an easy sell at being £100 cheaper, because it's definitely not £100 worse. If anything, it's just as good. But once the dust settles, and obviously I've been fitting for this for about a year now, and I was very happy with it, especially when I first tested it about a year or so ago. For me, it produced everything I could possibly want it for as a fast swinger of the club. That being said, when I tried to compare it against Ping or even Callaway Rogue, did I have similar results with people that didn't necessarily swing the club as fast or as consistent? And the simple answer was no. Not down to the ball speed off the face or the forgiveness in the head with the adjustable weights or not. It was more of a case of shaft options I just found were easier. And in terms of getting the ball up in the air and staying there, I saw a much bigger bonus with Ping or Callaway. This, which as you can see is very much designed for the more exuberant, younger, bit more in your face player that does hit the ball hard, this driver was very good. And especially with the hazardous smoke shaft, which I think has gone down well pretty much with all the manufacturers. This thing was a rocket. It produces low spin and it produced high launch, equaling long distance. Therefore, for the better players, it was kind of a given. And even though I said this in the test, the F8 in terms of head is pretty much as good as this. The combination between head and this smoke shaft just created bombs. So let's talk about price. So obviously, as soon as you go and buy off the internet, you're not getting fitted. That's just straight up. You're not gonna get myself or any other club fitter standing behind you go and buy that online, because it's obviously our time and effort to fit you into a driver that we know is gonna suit your game. However, if you have a great understanding on what shaft and what head that you need, you can save yourself quite a lot of money. And I'm going to start putting up some prices of where the COBRA F9 is on eBay at the moment. Around about £250 the last time I checked. But should you wait longer? Because there's going to be a lot of pro shops such as ourselves or just manufacturing companies that are going to have quite a few F9 heads left over from the season, from their pre-books. and they're not going to be wanting to be left with them. So where would I price this F9 currently at the moment, or over the next 6 months, so you can get a bit of an idea of how much money you should be spending if you really want one of these drivers in the bag. And I think you would be getting this driver at an absolute steal if you paid £200 for it. Now, you're probably going to be able to get some slightly cheaper, obviously, if they've been used more, but I'm talking about pretty much untouched. I mean, this is obviously our fitting driver. It never goes out on the golf course and basically just gets tested in here, but it's just the same as any other driver. And there's going to be a lot of people trying to sell obviously the heads only, but as well as the shafts. And I think if you could pick up one of these drivers in a great condition for about £200, that is a brilliant deal. Now, here is some side notes that you really should know before you go and buy this driver or any driver. Number one, check if it's a demo driver, because if it's a demo driver, it's not going to have the Arcos system in the top, like this one, for example. Now, that might not necessarily bother you, as realistically with the Arcos system that maps all your shots, you kind of need the other 14 clubs as well. So if you're just buying the driver alone, then it probably doesn't matter. However, if you're looking to complete the set, do bear that in mind, because I imagine the club fitters or the pro shops or whatever it is probably will forget to mention that anyway. But at the same time, I don't want you to pick up your driver expecting an Arcos system in the top and not have one. The other thing to note as well is just the general condition of the driver head. Obviously, if it's second hand, i.e. someone's used it this year, didn't get on with it and sold it, just be careful. Make sure you've got all the pictures of the head, because this head does tend to crack easily with the F9 compared to other ones. And to be honest, I think that's a major reason why they've redesigned the crown this year to basically cover the top. Not only does it look good, because I do think it looks a lot better as well, and it's unique, it's something out there, which I like from Cobra. They try and think outside the box, but the crown does chip easily. And the last thing you want is to buy a new driver, have one bad shot like we all do, get a bit steep on it, and all of a sudden you've got a massive crack or chip marks down the top of the crown. So first of all, just be bearing that in mind when you want to buy a Cobra F9, but also make sure you get all the pictures, because sometimes it's quite hard to tell if there are any chip marks on the crown of the driver. Now, here is my very scientific drawing of every driver that hits the market ever. The retailer suggested the price, which is about 1,000% higher than anyone's ever going to sell the driver for. Then after a month or so, basically that's the first year up here. The first year of where does the market think the driver should sit. And as obviously this year, it's been about 449 for TaylorMade and Callaway, 349 for Cobra, and so on. This is year one. Everyone launches their new driver, so everything drops by about 120 quid, 130 quid, basically by about a third of the price of the driver. For the next 4 years or so, that driver basically goes down by about a tenner or so every year. So in terms of buying a driver at its best time, rather than wait 5 years to save yourself 50 quid, you're probably better off, as I said, Cobra F9. If you can get it for about £200, £210 in great condition, you're doing well. If you get it better, then you're a hero, you're a winner. But I wouldn't bother waiting all this time, because you're not going to see a massive decrease over the next 5 years, as all these products are good. And all of a sudden, they serve a purpose. They're still going to be good in 5 years, just like I've done with all my bargain reviews. So if you're looking for a perfect time to buy this driver, it's probably now over Christmas. Another reason for you guys basically to go out and buy this driver now rather than 6 months time when the prices potentially dropped even more is because there's going to be abundance of these heads and shaft combinations. So if you do know what you are looking for, it's going to be very easy to find it. Now, it's same as club fitting. Yes, you might save yourself another £40 or whatever in 6 months time for this driver. However, if you don't get the right loft and you don't get the right shaft or the condition that you're after, is it really worth it? Especially for the amount of times you're probably going to use it and play with it on the golf course. So if you're looking for a great time to obviously buy this driver and you know the combination that you need, I'd rather you not necessarily save 20% and get that perfect combination than obviously just picking from the bottom of a barrel. Simon, what about the F8? Would you recommend that F8? Obviously it's going to be cheaper than the F9, and I think last time I looked you can probably get a brand new one for about £150. Two things. Number one, this was overkill with the colour. F8 was very understated, very bland, very boring. It didn't really, even though it was a good driver, not many people took notice of it. I don't like the colour of this one, but it's Marmite and it turns heads and people are going to look at it. So I do feel the aesthetics of the F8 were just boring, realistically. I think the F8 is more forgiving than this, however. Number 2, you're paying £50 to £70 more for this shaft. That's the long and short of it. The F8 had the hazardous black, it's been around since the start of time, it's a good shaft, but I do feel overall the weight of this shaft and what it produces with the head, especially for a better swing player, just overall was better, especially when I just hit it in terms of dispersion and numbers. So yes, the F8's still a good driver and it's a good price at where it is at the moment. However, I do feel spending £70 more on this just for the shaft alone would be worth it. So guys, there you have it. There is my perfect time to buy this driver, mainly now. Yes, you're going to be spending a tiny bit more, but you're going to get so much more choice because there's going to be abundance of heads and shafts available, and you're not necessarily just going to have to substitute one for another. You can pick and choose what combination you're going to want, and as I said, if you can get this driver in great condition between £200 and £220, I think you're doing quite well. Guys, if you like this video, leave it a like, subscribe if you are new. Catch you guys later.